Hi students, welcome back. In this recording we're going to be introducing the one-pager, your summative project. But in fact you've already started working on your one-pager. That graphic organizer that you were finding the quotes, the significant quotes that helped prove your assertion or your belief, that helped prove your theme or the mood or the verbal irony or the symbolism in the short story, all of that work together, that you've already started working on. And so in a sense you've already started your one-pager because you learned how to use direct quotes appropriately there, and you're going to need to incorporate those quotes and all of those literary elements or devices that you've talked about on that graphic organizer. You're going to need to bring all that information over now into the one-pager. So in a real true sense, you've already started this, okay? So this portion of it is going to be more of the creative, fun portion. So I'm going to read some of this to you, and I'm just going to explain parts of it to you. So for your summative assessment, you will need to create a one-pager that shows you understand the story and how the author uses literary elements or devices to deepen the reader's understanding. What's a one-pager? It's a document that uses pictures, words, symbols, and quotes to show all you've learned while reading a text. Okay? Next, we're going to talk about our areas of focus. And again, these are all going to look very familiar to you because you've already been looking at these and figuring out which quotes you want to use to prove all of these areas of focus. Okay, so we have mood, foreshadowing, irony, all three types, dramatic, verbal, and situational, symbolism, theme, point of view, and unreliable narrator, and in parentheses it says, can you find evidence to prove that Montresor is either reliable or unreliable? So that's up to you as the reader. You have whatever evidence you find, whatever you believe, whatever your assertion is. If you believe he's reliable, you need to find a quote or some evidence in the text to prove that. Or if you believe he's the opposite, you're going to have to find a quote or some evidence to prove that too. And then use direct quotes from the text to support your reasoning. It's exactly what I just said about the last example. Your reasoning or analysis of the text. And now we're going to look at our learning targets in the standards. Okay, so these are your learning targets here, and these are the standards that go along with them. Okay, I can learn to identify key details that contribute to the theme of a text and summarize its central message. And in fact, on that graphic organizer, you were already looking for a quote that helped prove the assertion or your belief that you had when you were thinking about what Poe's message was about revenge or trust or secrets or any of those topics. You've already done that, right? Because you've already come up with a theme statement on that graphic organizer. Okay, and so that's the learning target we're talking about. You pulled out a quote that proved your assertion or your belief about what Poe's central message or main idea was within that short story. Okay, and remember, when we're talking about themes though, there can be more than one theme. Okay, so your peers, your friend next to you may have something different than you, but that doesn't mean that yours is wrong and your peers is right. It just means that you're both seeing different things in the short story, and the short story is very popular, and it's a very rich short story because we can pick out so many different themes and ideas from it. The next learning target is, I can understand the meaning of words and phrases, including figurative language, to learn how it evokes a sense of time and place, or how it sets a formal or informal tone. And in the very beginning, when we started reading the opening of the cask, if you recall, I mentioned that Montresor was a very educated man, and he spoke to us in a formal tone. But also with this standard here that we're talking about, when it says you can pick out language that evokes a sense of time and place, that's dealing with our mood and our atmosphere and our setting. So again, if you refer back to that graphic organizer, you'll see that you finished that already. You have that done. The next standard is, I can learn to interpret figures of speech like irony, symbolism, metaphors, and similes, and analyze their meaning in a text. And that's pretty straightforward too. You know that you've looked at the different types of irony and symbolism, and you've come up with your quotes for that already. So really, you've already done the hard part for this project. The next learning target is I can understand how to draw evidence from literary text to support analysis and reflection of it. And that's your assertion or your beliefs about the quotes that you're pulling, the ones that you're choosing to use. Okay? I can learn to cite textual evidence to support my analysis of the text, and we've worked on that as well, right? You've done that already. You've already added your frame, so you're identifying the speaker of a particular quote, and then you're putting the quote, you're typing that quote out, and you're surrounding it with the quotation marks, and then you have the parenthetical citation at the end, just like we talked about in the last recording. And then the final one is I can understand how to produce clear writing that is developed and organized, as well as appropriate to task, purpose, and audience. And this last standard is where we are going to be working on with the one-pager. You haven't done this last standard yet, right? So now the task for you is to create a one-pager, and a one-pager is going to have words and phrases and symbols, and it's visual, and it's fun, and somebody should be able to look at your one-pager and really understand what the short story is all about. Okay? So that's where we're at with that portion. Moving on. So this is a template of what your one-pager is going to have in it, okay? And you don't have to use this template if you don't want, but this is just an idea for you. So if you'll notice, we have theme is incorporated. So here you would put your theme statement, and you would have your quote and then an image to convey the theme. Here's a keyword or topic, another keyword or topic, and another keyword or topic, and another one over here. So when we're thinking, like if we're thinking about the most dangerous game, a keyword or topic could definitely be hunting. It could be violence. It could be danger. It could be game. Any of those words would work. The bottom line is whatever your key topics or your key words are, they should have something to do, a deep connection with your theme here, okay? Point of view, so you would put the point of view in which the story was written. So for the most dangerous game, we know it's third person limited, and we would give an example with a quote for that. If you look up in the right hand corner, you're going to see foreshadowing, and so we would use a quote there that would show something that's hinting to come next. In the very top, we see title, and your name would go below that, okay? The different types of irony, symbolism, and so this is just like a blank template. Now the next slide I'm going to show you is one that I've made for you. I've created it using the most dangerous game, so you can get a sense of what I'm talking about. So that'll be our next slide. And here we go. This is our last slide. And this is a model of what a one-pager, when it's done, will look like. Okay, so if you notice what I mentioned before, all of these components, when we looked at that blank template, all of these components are still here, except now you're going to see some symbolism, you're going to see some colors, some images, and you're going to see the words and the title of it, and it's all going to come to life, so to speak. Okay, so at the very top, I've titled this Pursuit of Game. That's my title, and it's created by Mrs. Lavonksa. So when you're doing yours for the Cask of Amontillado, you're going to have some catchy title, and you're going to say created by or written by, and then your name. Okay, here is the theme statement that I came up with. Humans are dangerous when their obsessions consume them. And here's a picture, and on that picture it's in a wooded area with a skull on a stick. Okay, so that really does go along with the theme. And here's a quote. General Zaroff says, "You see, I read all books on hunting published in English, French, and Russian. I have but one passion in my life, Mr. Rainsford, and it is the hunt. This proves my theme." And I know I've talked with you about this earlier when we were going over that graphic organizer. So now you can see how the work you've done in the graphic organizer is transferred over to this. But there's more to do with this one-pager, right? Because now I have a background, right? And it's dark, showing the mood and the atmosphere here. See the dark background I have? And look at my quote. It says, "It was so dark that I could sleep without closing my eyes. The night would be my eyelids." And here's a picture of an eye and it's in the sky and it's very dark. Just like my whole background picture here is dark, and there's some water, and you're getting this dark mood, which is what is conveyed when we read The Most Dangerous Game. Some of my key topics, I put instinct, survival, danger, reason, because General Zaroff thinks that man is the most dangerous animal because he can reason. And remember, Rainsford talks about the jaguar and his instincts, right? And in fact, he doesn't feel sorry for the jaguar. In the very beginning of The Most Dangerous Game, we learn that he doesn't feel sorry for the jaguar until he sort of becomes the jaguar, right? When he becomes the hunted. And then I have a picture here, right? Symbolism and verbal and situational irony. Rainsford had no cares about the jaguar at the beginning of the story, but at the end of the story, he becomes a symbol for the jaguar as he is now hunted like one. He tells General Zaroff, "I am still a beast at bay." Notice how it's appropriately cited. This is also an example of verbal irony. Rainsford uses this phrase to express his desire to attack General Zaroff. He no longer wants to reason with him like he did at the start of the story. Finally, this is an example of situational irony too. Rainsford, an avid hunter, did not anticipate that he would be the one hunted on his own hunting trip. Okay, so you've seen that situational irony where what he expected, the total opposite happened. In addition, Zaroff didn't believe he would lose the game, but once the beast at bay emerges, it's all over for Zaroff. Okay, and then here's my example of dramatic irony, which is probably going to be a little bit hard for you to see since my picture is down below too, but I'll read it to you. The audience knows that Rainsford is making traps to stop Zaroff, but the general has no idea. And then, so that's my full sentence lead-in, giving some context. Here's my quote. "You've done well, Rainsford," the voice of the general called. "Your Burmese tiger pit has claimed one of my best dogs. Again, you score." And then there's my parenthetical citation, Connell 27 in the period here. And here is an image of a Burmese tiger trap. Okay, and here's an image of the water buffalo that Rainsford and General Zaroff talk about. And I wanted to use that because that's when General Zaroff tells him that there is an animal that's more dangerous than the water buffalo. And then I chose this image here of, it was the water buffalo, but I put General Zaroff's face here because he actually becomes hunted at the end. So you can see how the images that I have, the title, and the different literary devices in my explanations and my quotes, they all come together. They're all very cohesive and everything ties together nicely. Okay, and so this is what we're looking for in a one-pager. Okay, now you have the option to do it via PowerPoint, Google Slide, or you can draw it on your own. And I'm going to show you some images. I'm going to show you some pictures of some one-pagers that were done in the past by students. And I'll have that on a page in the module for you to see. Okay, so if you have any questions about how to work on this one-pager, what is expected, feel free to email your teacher or set up a Teams meeting. And so the next part of this video is going to be the rubric, and because I'm running out of time, I'll probably have to make another recording where I'm going to go through the rubric and the checklist with you all because I want you to have a really strong understanding of what you're doing. So this week there's sort of a lot of recordings, and I apologize for that, but that's because it's important that you know how to do this correct. Okay, so I'm going to close this recording up because I know I'm going to run out of time, and then the next recording will be the rubric, where I explain the rubric to you. Thank you for listening.